Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nightlight. My name is Tom Snarski, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our 30th Nightlight poetry reading event. This is now 30 months, sort of in a row, where we've been doing these Nightlight readings, and this is a really, really exciting one. I'm really glad to be entering our second month of 2026 by welcoming this brilliant cadre of poets and writers. We have tonight Avee Chaudhuri, Lilly Merrill, Wade Harris, and Rachel Khosrowshahi, all of whom are going to share their excellent work with us this evening. Just in case you haven't listened in before, Nightlight's a reading series featuring poets and writers in a monthly Zoom, usually on the third Thursday of the month at 9 p.m. Eastern, sometimes the fourth Thursday if you're me and you have scheduling conflicts. We're also on social media at Nightlight Poems on Twitter and at night_light_poems_ on Instagram, where we try to hype up our readings and also share recordings of the events. So if you're listening in from YouTube, thank you for coming from the future to listen to these poems. And if you're here right now, thanks even more for making this time capsule for our lovely audience. All that said, I'm really excited to get into tonight's main event. We have four excellent, excellent readers here who I'm really excited to hear from, and I'm very, very glad to be getting things started by introducing Avee Chaudhuri. Avee is writing a pirate novel. His work is forthcoming at 3 a.m. Magazine and Tar Press. And Avee, thank you so much for being here. Excited to hear what you're going to read.
Thank you, Tom. And I'm very thrilled to be included in this lineup of great readers and writers. I was on a reading with Wade not 2 weeks ago, and that blew my mind. So it's wonderful to see them again. Um, uh, I just have two poems I'm going to read, so I hope it's okay to give like a bit of context for them. At least for the first one, I'm not really a poet, but the very end of last year, 2025, Zach Smith reached out to me, and he reached out to you, Tom, and I think maybe some other people here, and said, "Hey, I'm putting together this end of year compendium of poetry. Um, so send me a poem." And Zach Smith, we owe so much to him as a stylist and an innovator and a publisher and an editor and a friend. I really wanted to send him something, but it was a dreadful time for me, stressful. I said, "No, Zach, I can't do it." And I, apologetically emailed him back. And then he responded to that with a very aggressive message, which was like, you're gonna send me a fucking poem. And I thought, okay, well, Zach is just it's a stressful time for him. He has two young children, holiday seasons, Christmas. I just thought he's stressed out. So I said, ha ha ha, very funny. Um, Catch me next time. Happy holidays. And then he responded to that and he said, "You'll send me a fucking poem, boyo, or else, dot, 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 ellipses." I just thought, okay, I'm missing the humor here, but whatever. Next day, I'm walking to campus to give an exam in a literature class. I'm approached by two men, one of whom produces a knife and stabs me above the kidney. He knew exactly where to place the knife, you understand, so that it wasn't. I mean, it was a severe wound, but uncritical and not fatal, and it felt horrible, and I fell to the ground, and they started kicking me, but they weren't wearing steel-toed boots. It was like Keds or like a canvas sneaker, so it wasn't too bad. Then at the end of the beating, they were like, "Zach Smith sends his regards," and the implication was clear that if I didn't send Zach a poem, um, that I'd end up in the city morgue. So I sat down and I wrote a poem, and it ended up being being rather somber. Um, my wife, Annalise, was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in late August. And then in December, my dog Teddy, we discovered he had a sarcoma on his belly, and that was so he's fine now. They're both on the mend. But it was very stressful, and so I wrote a poem that is really out of character, I guess, in terms of how earnest it is. But this was featured in the end of year compendium, which I hope you guys check out. It's on Zach's website, and Tom is in it, and ZH, and a lot of fantastic poets. But this is called Poem for Mulling Wine. Solstice, a long night becalmed by familiar shadows, the steeple rising, yet dwarfed by oak and the withered elm, which we called a harlot in a cruel moment, the way it splintered without a care. Springtime, there will be vernal winds unsullied by the smell of pyres, and cognac spilling out from laughter. Unsullied, yes, but naive all the same, and untutored in the joy of letting go at last. It was not a great year, but here we are resplendent at the hope of another turn. Half the elm still stands, waiting for the bloom. So yeah, so poetry can emerge from sort of unexpected sources, like a lunatic like Zach, sicking men on you, demanding the fruits of your creative labor. No, Zach Smith, he's fantastic. All right, so that's a somber poem. Here's a here's another poem I wrote. Actually, this was published about a year ago in Bruiser. And shout out to Bruiser, fantastic magazine. Um, Baltimore's own Bruiser. If you're going to AWP, Bruiser's having a big. There's a reading on Wednesday, but then there's this huge mart of vendors that they've put together, I think on Thursday, and a lot of other lit mags are part of that. But this is called, this is a Hyben or Hyben, I guess. It's what's the word for it? Prosometric. So it's half prose, half verse, but this is called Street Fighter 2 Turbo. This is actually my first published poem. No, not Shakespeare, said Gage while twirling his scotch and soda. Then what? Asked the consul. By now the bar had nearly emptied. The two had been drinking since the previous afternoon. Sunlight streamed through the window, and the smell of oysters cooking in wine and garlic ascended from the kitchen below. One could hear the cry of fishermen at the docks, the tolling of church bells, the hush of ghosts in doorways. It was 5 o'clock in the morning, and all the decent people were still asleep in bed. If I were to choose an epitaph for the grave, it would be Heiduken, replied Gage emphatically, spilling his scotch and soda as he searched desperately for bread among the discarded overcoats. Heiduken, he said, from that atrocious video game with the muscular men and the drugged elephants. So that's the part in prose, and then the verse is Heiduken, Heiduken, I will kill you with my fists in the ruins of this shogunate. Heiduken, Heiduken, in another life, Kenneth, we might have been lovers. I wish, like Quixote, to let go of my scabbard and return to the world of the dying and the sane. Okay, and that's that's all I have. Apologies to Zach Smith. That was obviously none of that actually happened. Our interactions have always been very civil and friendly and gracious. And I love Zach, and I get to see him in in real life. I think in a few weeks, and that'll be really great. So thank you everyone for putting up with me, and thank you Tom, um, and cheers.
Cheers, Ovi. Thank you for leading us off with that beautiful set, context, stab wound, and all. I keep a note on my phone called possible epitaphs, and I'm gonna have to add Hadouken to the list of possible epitaphs. That again was Ovi Chaudhuri, who you can find on social media on Twitter at Indigo Jackal, INDIGOJACKAL, and on Instagram at Ovi Chaudhuri, which is AVEECHAUDHURI on Instagram. Ovi will also be reading at Story Fort, I think, which is in Idaho. Is that right?
Yeah, and that's Boise. Sorry, my dog keeps crying. And
Mhm.
that's where Zach and I should finally hook up for the first time after knowing each other for 7 years almost. So
Fabulous. I'm so glad that there will be, I'm sad not to be in Boise for this happening, but I'm very glad that there will be a meeting, a coast, a unification in Boise for Story Fort. That's marvelous. Thank you so much, Ovi, for leading us off, and really, really glad to have you here.
thanks again, Tom. I really appreciate it.
Likewise. Well, I'm really excited to welcome our next reader as well. Everybody who's reading tonight, I've excitedly been following their work on social media, like I mentioned earlier, and whether it's on Substack or on the various wonderful online lit mags. And this reader is no exception. I'm really excited to introduce Lilly Merrill. Lilly Merrill is making her way back to NYC this year, but hanging out in the woods of New Hampshire for now. She's had poems in Be About It, Michigan City Review of Books, and Burial Magazine. Lily, thank you so much for joining us. Excited to hear what you're going to share.
Thanks. Wonderful to be here. Thanks for having me. All right. This is my first time doing this, so that's a thing. But I've got to go slowly, not rush, not freak out. So there we go. All right, I'll start with soggy haikus, which were just in burial. Shout out ZH and Hans. All right, so soggy haikus. Boys from the thruple are good looking out at the state-run liquor store. Hangover Theta. I am hearing songs again. Baby, it's good news. As a snake swallows a rodent whole, but it's just a bladder of wine. Conformist lanterns. We should have stayed for one drink. Pink, marigold, blue. Au revoir, ouvert. In no corporeal form. No, I do like gin. All right, this next one's called Provincial Blues. This was in Michigan City. Shout out Bobby. A doll in Billy Marks told me to tell him to take me to Florence. Ooh, like a grand tour. She's off to Staten Island. And I, still with no passport. I know I'm just scared to confront that the intricacies, the delicacy of the hulking old world might be wasted on me. And right here, there's more than enough rarefying nausea. Black and blonde, wood and polished concrete, hotels where it's known. Shit, everybody's been to Europe but me. Right, this one's called Kellogg's, as in Be About It. Shout out Alexandra. All right, let's see. Maybe that woman holding flowers outside is waiting for her lover this Tuesday night, he has the nerve to say. Absolutely, you would like Marty Robbins. I am just so legible to myself. All I have is to toss a napkin, and limply at that. This is bad, like the last time I was in here, when Eli fell on his head. We found ourselves in the care of the unbelieving Dr. Sunshine. Inelastic collision, and recall. I'm no longer curious about being told what to do. I will cry and not eat this. Yes, persons. And I should like to be one. Servers do shrink at the well of tears. I am studying the backs of my hands on a dusty rose foretop. I take a picture that will not be a burden to him. When next we make ourselves beneficiaries of this something abject, loafer's trip to hear the song run back, overfull with regret, exactly here. I can see the device, always turned away when he breaks these things. I am absorbed in my wilderness. He is hosting me in his. I cannot read or fold a map. I am mining bad after the goodness that he chants over and over and over. I too am partial to that wondering aloud. I mean for my lips to drive it down through his forehead. There, then cute, does not survive the tone with which he pronounces it. Lone long hair plucked from a shirt. I am too softly disposed to stop his breathing for any length of time. Would that I could extinguish the work lights, beaming all night across the garden. I am as gentle as I'd like to stay, peril herein, shaving his neck before he meets his mother. Okay, this one's called Bomber. With every turn through this dead construction, nothing gives up its uncurling. Out there, in the productive, endlessly dilating world. Beating parts arrive late to repeople the rooms I'm alive in, so still I address myself to you. Left hip, once purposeless flesh, reanimates on command, even now, as it was grasped in greeting. And you are carried away again, drinking me as if you'd never asked to drown. Okay, this one's a new one. It's called Bird in Hand. Bird in hand, like some Snow White. Something not quite right about this one. Low-flying titmouse, lilac to apple tree, to lilac to apple tree, to lilac to me. I'd swear I've been alerted to an inborn instinct, harmlessness and sweetness, alighting dumb and earthy from every ill lately or soon to be done. My young pup and I believe in our beings domesticated. Trained or enchanted, I whelp his every reaction, it seems. Who daimonioned who? Lashing out after I gave it up, drawing blood on King's broad arrow. Weight of wages of knowing not what we're wanting. In our redemptive thaw, he too tracks this wanderer from the nest, pins its wings 'tween his teeth, and delivers it back to me. I wish I'd thought to stop when all these creatures of land, air, and sea began falling. Okay, there's another new one called Genya 2. The plants are here in the room. I have one just like that. I am letting it die. I'm creating conditions and everyone ever so gently takes issue. I'd love it if you'd drive. I just let the bureaucracy roil in the background. Some who input these codes will be against the wall. I'm on autopay because I've kept house and not well. Good, the third man who's not quite up for it. Sorry, when I say right, I'm on a 5-second delay, accommodating and dull. What just happened there? I was drawing the sides of the triangle, but forgetting to hold. No, fear did not stop me then, but did I ever have the wrong end of things? It has no location. I am entombed in its protection. I'm not sure what else is moldering down here or why. So many parts of it felt right. I don't hear it as a voice, but it rings and is rotting beside me. It comes to the same thing, a longing dread, a long dead friend. And this last one is a new one. It's going to be in some words next month. All right, 400 days of asking what is happening and why. And all there is to watch the skating. I could never do that, whoever that is, or I am. But I can indulge some live self-flattery. The feathering slight sense of being related to grace. Embryonic muscle memorials to it. Perpetually chill and sweating. permanent residents in grasping mellow hell, grinding on edges, ice into water, rictus with all its asymmetry, which no one actually detects, and encircling forever, no one's been angrier at me than me. That's all I got. Thanks, guys.
Wow, thank you so much, Lily. The chat was on fire for that one. And ZH was giving our works cited, which I really appreciate. We got to read along for some of the published ones, and we're really
Yay.
excited for the ones that have future homes. That was
Excellent.
that was Lily Merrill. Lily, what part of New Hampshire are you in?
I'm in a town called Barrington.
Okay, nice.
It's
We
like southeast, close to the coast.
Cool, nice. We lived in Massachusetts before being in Virginia, and I worked in Malden, and some folks commuted from New Hampshire.
Oh, cool.
The
Yeah.
Granite State, the liquor store, the beautiful things over there.
The few beautiful things.
Few beautiful things. Income tax who? That was
Yeah.
Lily Merrill. Lily Merrill, you can find on Instagram and X at Iron Hands Lil, IronHandSlil. Check out, you heard some of the great places like Burial in Michigan City and others that have published Lily's work or will publish Lily's work. Keep an eye out for that new piece in Some Words. And yeah, really, really great to have you, Lily. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, it's always a little bittersweet to get to the back half of a nightlight reading, but this is a really, really wonderful lineup, and we're going to finish strong, just as we started strong. Really excited to reunite the Ovie Wade duo from a couple weeks ago at another reading I know y'all did together by introducing and welcoming Wade Harris to Nightlight. Wade Harris is a Texan banging out tales from his hot-rodded IBM wheelwriter in the garage. His work has appeared in numerous literary magazines, and he is here. I'm really excited, Wade, to hear what you're going to share. This is going to be awesome.
All right. Can everybody hear me okay? I'll take that as a yes. Cool. All right. So I'm going to read y'all some pretty wild shit tonight. Only one of these has been published, and it's going to be the first one. And this I might have read at the last reading too, so sorry if you've heard it, but it's called Twice as Hard. Ray's mail comes to my house. Still. How the fuck do you manage to owe the bank $843.71 on your checking account? He has a court summons. Like the saint I am, I call him and tell him to come get his mail. He always shows up on his blue '03 Sportster. It's the anniversary edition. Well, once upon a time it was. Every time it shows up now, he's painted the tank. To his credit, not bad. Usually. I'm on the porch, feet up, drinking beer, beautiful day, birds are chirping, all that jazz. I didn't even have the stereo on for once. And then I hear drag pipes. It's no mistaking when Ray's in the neighborhood. All the neighbors go inside. Dude, come check out my fix. He lost the plate. Again. And he'd written the plate number on the bracket in paint pen. Stupid, right? The bad part? It actually looked extremely believable from 20 feet back. This fucking guy. Fine. I get his mail, and he looks through my kitchen cabinets. He helps himself to the beer in my fridge. Raymond. He gives me a blank stare. He takes the letter, and he opens it with the precision of a chainsaw. This is fucking bullshit! Dude, this is such bullshit! How did that cop know? The fucking bank must tell the police! The charge was failure to maintain financial responsibility, which means having no car insurance. The bank does not tell the police about having overdrawn bank accounts. So, I look at my open cabinets in the kitchen, I look at my beer sweating in his hand, and I think to myself, he'll learn. And it was ray-free for 4 beautiful weeks. Peace. All of a sudden, the phone rings. Raymond. Yeah. Hey, man, can you bail me out of jail? Okay, buddy. I grab my keys. I fire up my truck, Big Red, the Flowmaster 10, singing just like a jailbird. And I punch in the tape to Shake Your Moneymaker, which is a good album, by the way. I spin the fucking volume knob all the way up, and the song Twice as Hard by the Black Crowes starts screaming through the 6.5-inch door speakers. I finish my beer, and I throw it out the window into the bed. Practice makes perfect. And the neighbors go inside. All right. That's the first story. And a lot of my stories are real. That is a very real story. Raymond is my old roommate I had for years and is a very crazy person. Okay. So we're going to do another one here. And this point on is going to be new shit. It's not published anywhere. And it is fun stuff. So, unfortunately, when I dream, which is not very often, it tends to be David Lynch movies, and I fucking hate it. So, this is based on a dream. And by the way, I love David Lynch, but, like, dreaming in that is scary as shit. So, this is called Ceiling Man. The man's face was upside down. His chin where the forehead should be. Skin tight, pale and waxy like a candle made from eraser rubber. He looked at me, not around the room, not past me, but at me. And then the head turned, not fast and not slow, just inevitably. The joints popped like corn in hell's microwave. His neck kept turning, the shoulders turned, his chest creaked, ribs pressing out of place like fingers under thin cloth. Muscles rolled beneath skin and tearing and reforming. A shape unmaking and remaking itself in the rhythm of some godless geometry. Writhing almost like a screw worm. And then he moved again. He didn't move, he skittered. Forward towards me. Delicate. Horrific. Hands and elbows and knees bent in impossible directions. More insect than human, his feet dragged like afterthoughts. The light above us hummed. The air had gone thick, like breathing through syrup. I tried to scream, but I began to drown. And then I woke up, still at my desk. My coffee had gone cold, and the whiskey bottle was empty. I saw notes in my own handwriting that I didn't remember writing. It said, "He doesn't blink." And I laughed from relief, and I reached for my coffee, my hand trembling like a loose film in a reel. In the reflection, the mirror black surface of the coffee up on the ceiling. He was there, waiting and descending, smiling now, but not like he had a mouth, like the room itself was smiling. And something said behind my ear, but also from within inside me, "Good, you're finally awake." And that's it. That's Ceiling Man. And that was a very unfortunate real dream I had. Okay. So I know this is mainly supposed to be poetry and whatnot, and I'm reading prose, but I'm not the world's best poet, so we're doing all kinds of fun micros. And this is my last one I have for tonight, and it's going to be a bit vehement and crazy, so y'all strap in. I'm going to read the title of this at the end of it. You have to be a huge dumbass to flunk classes in high school. If your GPA was a 2.1, congrats, this is who this is about. In college, I'll give you a pass for making C's, depending on what your degree was in. Now, the point being, public high school is basically a fucking joke. They do anything to pass you along. All you gotta do is show up. High, drunk, sober, dumb, smart, doesn't matter. You walk across that stage and they'll say, "Hey, dumb fuck, here's your diploma. See you later." The problem is, with all those C students, nothing for the most part. I mean, most turn out fine. Hell, I'd probably rather drink beer with them than some Poindexter-looking ass in a polo shirt wearing dickhead who wants to talk about crypto or anime waifus. But some, they become class traders. They become cops. The biggest gang in America. They exist to protect the rich from the poor. In my life, I've never had one positive interaction with a cop. Friendly reminder, you should never, ever do anything to help the police. They are not there to figure out what actually happened. They are there to escalate and assign blame in the easiest way possible. No matter if they get the wrong guy. Heaven forbid they do a little detective work. Besides, did you expect critical thinking from those who could barely pass sophomore English? If you managed to suck when life was on tutorial mode, just pick up a gun and badge, man. C is for cop, C is for coward, and C is for crooked. And this piece is called C is for cop. And that's all I got.
Wade dropping the mic at the end. Wade, thanks you for being here, and thank you for really upping the level of like physical prop oriented like reading. That was the beer bottle toss was the PS. That was really beautiful. That again was Wade Harris, who you can find on social media at the Wade Harris, TheWadeHarris. Wade's also on Substack at substack.com/at Wade Harris. There, I hear are both there. I heard because like I asked on this little Google form that I send to all the readers. I hear that Wade has a novel in editing and also a mini series in the works as well. So keep your ear to the ground for both of those things because those sound really, really exciting on the basis of what we just heard. Um, Shout out to everybody in the chat hyping up the Wade reading. Amazing. Well, I'm so glad to be, well, not really glad. I'm like a little bit sad that we are already at our last reader of the evening, but this has been a real joy, and I'm so excited to bring it home by introducing our very, very last reader tonight in Rachel Khosrowshahi. Rachel is primarily a horror and sci-fi author who studied creative writing at EKU and UCSD with a concentration in poetry. Rachel, thank you for being here. I'm excited to hear what you're going to share. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Y'all will have to look over this cabin. It's the only place that internet picks up on the property off grid. Just me and Tallinn don't out here on the big island, just doing the best we can. So I'm not gonna share poems tonight just for the fact that I do have some new fiction that I'm working on, and I thought this might be a good chance to read a little bit of it. And I do write a lot of like historical fiction and horror, but I'm not going to make you suffer through that. I'm just going to keep it brief. But all right, this one's called The Old Magic. And I also said I wasn't going to read anything off my phone, but I'm going to have to. Got my notebook paper too. All right, the Old Magic. The Big Island, Hawaii, is the most isolated of the world's most isolated island chain, 2,000 miles from any continent. But her brother expected her to drop everything to come and see a piece of seemingly worthless land near a lava field deep in the jungle. There's something here, sis. Come and see. Let's recreate some of the old magic. She'd visited her brother in Croatia, Albania, Mexico, Turkey, Iceland, but this was different. He sounded not crazed, but certain, as if she'd already accepted. Which in the end she did, because with her brother's strange habits and rhythms, it might be another 3 years before she heard from him. Just like now, he'd be calling her up like no time had passed. There's something here, he said again. She wanted to do a video call, but he said that was impossible. But to go without seeing his eyes was a gamble, because his voice almost never gave anything away. Her brother had made millions in tech and left school early. It surprised her parents, but it did not surprise her. There's something here could mean literally anything from him, and he wouldn't explain even if she begged, so she packed for the tropics. And this initial luck and success had convinced him that he could not fail, and so far he was right. And we'll give this one a rest and move on to the next one. This one's called All the Time in the World. She saw him as soon as she started at the landing. He was blocking her door, just lying there asleep or drunk. She couldn't tell. Maybe drunk. Maybe a party in the building. Maybe it was Paul. She put her hand on his shoulder and shook it gently for want of anything better to do. Are y'all right? It was sort of an inadequate thing to say, but what else was there to say? He grunted something but did not open his eyes. Should you call someone? The police? An ambulance? Were you upstairs at a party? She'd seen a delivery boy carrying up a case of alcohol, but she hadn't been invited. How do you even get in the building without a key? She could just close the door and forget him. She pushed past him. You can't sleep here. Maybe she should offer him some coffee. He sat up some against the door and pulled his face up off his chest. She'd never seen him before, but he did vaguely remind her of someone. She did have instant coffee inside. His eyes opened so abruptly and absolutely that she thought for a second that he'd been awake this whole time. Maybe this was all a trick to get into her apartment, which he was now leaning into. He was staring off into a point in the distance. Are you all right? She said. All right, he said. Are you sick or anything? Or anything, he said. She repressed the urge to laugh. It really was not that funny. How did you get in the building? She asked. I live here, he answered, seemingly normal now. It was only a small walk up. 3 floors, 2 apartments on each floor. If he lived here, she'd have seen him by now. He was a good-looking man even in this state. Well, what apartment? This one, he said. Is this Flagstone Apartments, he said. Yes. He was looking at her like she was just as stupid as hell. Apartment D? Yes, he said. Yeah, that's where I live. He said, raising his lips and his brow. She was getting irritated, her heart beat high and hard in her chest. There was a fair trace of alcoholic mockery on his face. Why didn't he just leave? Well, can I help you find a cab? She said. Help me find a cab, he said. That's what you want to do? Kind of, yeah, she said. She was so tired and he was half in and half out of her apartment. What if somebody saw it? She'd never had anybody over here this late. I'll walk, he said. Just leave me be. Well, you know where you're headed, right? You can give the driver an address and all? Oh, I got an address, he said, walking away with a slight limp. Don't worry your little brain, I've got an address. Then he was gone. She wondered why he looked so familiar to her. Maybe it was the alcohol. All senseless drunks kind of look the same when you get down to it. And we'll put this one away for the time being, too. Move on to the next. Let's see what else we got over here. This one's fairly long. I don't know if this would do or not, but we'll just do it anyway, and then we'll let that be the end of it. This one's called The Fort of Ildon Hill. Rory grew up less than 10 miles from a haunted wood. You'll find it on the road to Dover along the coast, but it's not a place you're likely to stop. Apart from anything else, the road is narrow and known for life-taking accidents. But if you did somehow end up there, you'd be able to tell straight away you ought to head back how you came. Despite its vastness and splendor, you could also regard the wood as a whole lot of nothing. There's no side of the chapel that once sat at the base of the 3 great hills or the well where a young girl supposedly fell to her death. Some of the yew trees were here before cars, before newspapers. It's known as a place of bewilderment, death, and great violence, but Rory and I had never scared easy and didn't give any real credence to the old tales. Rory was an aspiring author, and he thought a trip to the fort in the woods we had known as kids might be just the jolt his creative process needs. Most of his books were thrillers. He'd had some minor success as a writer, and had an upcoming meeting with an agent he said could put him on the right path. Most authors he worked with had shot to the top and quickly. So when Rory called me about the weekend trip to the fort, I could hardly refuse him. He'd had little success with researching the land. There weren't extensive records on the fort or a good explanation why there ever needed to be a fort atop the mountain to begin with. It seems no one knew for sure who'd built it or what its purpose truly was. Local legend claims the devil can be called by circling the fort 7 times during a full moon. After you walk 7 times, he appears to you to make a deal and grant you a wish. Normal stuff you hear about with any old or ancient place in a dark wood. We found it funny, but it was a bit of folklore that Rory said his prospective editor would go all the way in for. The fort was considered a place of sacrifice and true power to some. Anybody brave enough to spend a night there came away with good stories, surely embellished, but it was uncanny. Rory and I had never actually made the hike to the fort itself. Neither of us actually believed in that stuff. We thought of it as a bit of giddy fun, a thrill, A hopefully good story for Rory to secure as editor, and I could see potential in a trek there, given our sense of rationality and gentle prod. It was a chance to get away from the city, build a fire, and have a few drinks to catch up. And I'm gonna let that be that. But if you have any interest in these, they're go up on my Substack, and you can see what happens with these characters. Thank y'all.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I appreciated the sampler and the exciting take a look at these characters' lives. Again, that's Rachel Khosrowshahi, who you can find on X at least at Dickie the Shah, which is DICKIETHESHAH. And the Substack that Rachel was talking about is at Prince of the Ponds. So Prince of the Ponds, and you can keep an eye on some of the exciting new work coming out and the developments with those characters and others. Um, Amazing. Thank you all so much. This has been a really beautiful reading for really, really talented folks who I've really been privileged to get to hear. And I hope that you'll keep an ear to the ground for all of the exciting new stuff that they're publishing, that they're continuing to publish. We heard some forthcoming stuff, some things in development. There's lots of new shit in the air, and that's my favorite kind of reading vibe. So we're coming to the end. I just want to say thank you all so much for being here. Thank you to each of the readers for sharing their beautiful work with us this evening. And thank you too to our listeners, whether you're here in the Zoom call with us or listening on YouTube. We really appreciate you giving this hour or so of your life over to poetry, fiction, and everything else. This series would not be what it is without the Zoom chat blowing up, the beautiful support that we get to see from writers to writers, which is really, really lovely. Yeah, so we have another reading coming up on, I think it's scheduled for March 19th. I'm really excited for that one. We have a couple folks already in the queue, but selfishly, I'm very excited because it'll be a pseudo launch reading for a new book I have coming out called Mountebank. So I'm gonna break curfew and, actually read at that one, which would be really exciting. And we always end Nightlight, whether it's a good idea or not, with a poem. So I'm gonna close with a poem by one of my favorite poets from their first book. This is it's probably not showing up at all very well. This is the book Four, the number four by Noel Cocott, one of my favorite poets on the planet. Noel is a real gift to poetry. This is a poem called Bisexuality. The bars on these windows eke out the burglars of my dreams, while the hooks of sprouts and Dixie cups get tangled in this Lenten season. There is a radio message in this vehicle of light. Quote, it must be established that kissing people will only bring more germs and more immeasurable verbs, end quote. And I am reminded of a time when all of life seemed a tiring reach, when the length of a tree's shadow was proportionate only to the swallowed seeds in my own true rind. Now I am left to chirping and knocking down nests while the butterflies trapped in my mouth fly out. But the ochre of my rapacity is beyond subtlety this spring. My mouth of suns waxes your cornucopic breathing. The letters of half unspoken words plunge themselves into your brows, and the rest of the particulars dim and glow over your egg white fingertips as the bars of moonlight spread wide across our shadows, struggling to bless these spaces where mice have carved their sleep. These feelings, when they come in droves.